Hello everybody. Hello Nervos Land. Rodrigo Santiago here. Let's go for our blockchain killer number 6, permissioned layers. So this is for entertainment purposes only. It's not financial advice. You should do your own research. I'm Rodrigo Santiago. I'm a Brazilian guy. I'm an IT tech lead and CKB holder. CKB holder. So forgive me for any English mistakes, spoken or written, because I'm not a native English speaker. So yeah, we're going to survive that. I'm going to get stuck sometimes, but I'm doing it for the best I can do to show you guys some great stuff about blockchains that I think are great stuff. Actually, it might not be. So this presentation might help you to identify key points to be analyzed in any blockchain investment. So you could just look for all your wallet and see if those coins that you're holding are good investments based on some criteria I'm showing here. If I'm wrong, I totally welcome you to shoot a message like a Telegram or just shoot a comment straight up in the video and we can chat about whatever, and I can learn a lot from this community. So let's go. So far we've covered 5 blockchain killers. So lots of stuff that can really undermine blockchain systems and ecosystems. And if you haven't seen the prior videos, I would totally advise you to go there and watch. It can be now or later. So let's go for the permissioned layers killer. This really is a threat to blockchains today and for your pocket, right? So let's see, permissioned layers. Some blockchains are creating unnecessary barriers of entry for new participants. We've been talking a little bit about that. Some of creating unnecessary bureaucracy that halts the development of the ecosystem. Stakeholders have to ask permission to a person, a group, a government to participate in the ecosystem. This is totally the opposite of blockchain, of what the blockchain movement preaches about. And some blockchain's activities are being closely watched and controlled by central authorities, companies or governments. In some blockchains, you're required to trust central authority. So yeah, so this last one is pretty interesting because at some point, a blockchain stakeholder or user, like a miner, a validator in the proof of stake systems, or a user or a developer, they have to ask permission for doing something. So this is the asking permission to. And there's another characteristic that's kind of the permission layer part, in which some central authority they ask people for trusting on them. We're going to see some examples of it here, but in the ideal blockchain world, nobody should be required to trust anybody for the blockchain to succeed. So there shall be no central authorities with a higher level of privilege, of requiring a high level of respect or trust from other users. So we call that a trustless environment. We don't need to bring trust to the table. And why not? We don't need to bring trust because a good blockchain should provide software and code in the most open and decentralized way, so that you can just use software and personal inspection to check that the whole network is working properly. So this is what a trustless environment means. And blockchains should not have a trusted party that we should deposit our faith in that person or that group. We shouldn't have that. This is a very, very difficult thing to do on blockchains. Let's talk a little bit on, let's go for examples here, right? So on Ripple, yeah, let's laugh a little bit about it because Ripple has gone in too much trouble. So in Ripple, we have a kind of application process for financial institutions use the Ripple network. So not anybody can go in and use Ripple as an application user. I'm pretty sure that to become a validator, you can do in a decentralized and permissionless way, but I'm not so sure that you could use the Ripple network to do the exchanges, the fiat exchanges that Ripple is about. So the payment network and everything. So this is a permissioned layer. You should talk to the sales team in Ripple so that you could use the application. Yeah, that's not for me actually. So this is undermining the process of Ripple to be a great ecosystem, the greatest ecosystem it can be. The second example here is that China has been creating an effort to come up with a blockchain it can control. So a blockchain that a government can control. This doesn't make sense at all because blockchains are censorship resistant. So how is China coming up with that? There's a blockchain service network. It's exactly that, the name, the BSN, Blockchain Services Network. So Blockchain Services Network is a service provider for blockchain service that works from China. BSN, they serve clients from China and from everybody else in the globe. But China controls the BSN network. So Nervos Network was, let's say, was gracefully added to the BSN network. It was admitted and was allowed by China government to operate and provide services in the BSN, Blockchain Services Network. This is good in one point because now we know that Nervos Network can provide services throughout China. On the other hand, if China gets pissed by Nervos Network in any ways, it could just disconnect the Nervos Network from the BSN network. So the first question we ask here is, could China just shut down the whole Nervos Network blockchain? For that, I would say no. It's a blatant no. It's impossible for China government to shut down the Nervos Network blockchain because Nervos Network is an autonomous, independent blockchain. What the China government did was just to allow the the Nervos Network to provide services to BSN. So those are two different entities. But yeah, China Gov could just disconnect Nervos Network from BSN. So this is the first thing. But this is pretty standard. Not a single blockchain will be able to operate independently inside China territory. China Communist Party, they are just pretty too much straight on that. Compliance is so high, you can step out of the Communist Party, political party guidance. So yeah, that's it. It's what we have to deal with. So yeah, China wouldn't be able to shut down the Nervos Network. It could disconnect Nervos Network from the BSN. But then China Gov has gone a step forward, which is to start forking good blockchain projects and adding permissioning layers to them. One example is IrisNet. It's right in the text, right? IrisNet is the permissioned fork of Cosmos. And there's a permissioned version of Ethereum also. So the quick thing is, it is a network owned by the China government. It's as if China itself was able to just coordinate a full blockchain effort, and it's a permissioned one. So if anybody do some bad stuff in that blockchain, the China gov could just press the delete button. It's actually what's written here. The forks of these chains for the BSN allow Red Day to censor certain smart contracts if they upset the regulator, China Communist Party, or delete the entire blockchain. He said, uh, he, it's the name of the guy. If they do something wrong, the regulator says that there's something wrong, we can click a button and delete the whole chain. So it's not only about disconnecting a blockchain from BSN, it's about shutting down the whole network if needed. So it's hardcore stuff. If we have to have that kind of blockchain going, I might as well just prefer to use Amazon, Google, Microsoft, or any cloud computing provider, right? So this is the big deal here, permissioned layers on forked blockchain projects. So we have here an example from DOT and the parachains. I've told you already that. Let's just review it. Parachain slots are limited and will be auctioned off in a permission way. So why is that? Why did Gavin Woods, the author, the core chief of Polkadot, decided to limit the slots for parachains? Why? It's a very central question here. We shouldn't have that in blockchains. And the auctioning process is a one-by-one process, so that there's only a single parachain auction occurring at any given time. So what is a parachain on Polkadot? It's mainly an application on top of Polkadot. So yeah, it's pretty weird. Why did Gavin Woods decide to go in that route? Like centralizing a line and organizing people one by one. Just wait for your turn, sir. Hey, sir, you're coming in front of everybody. Just go to the end of the line. This, for me, it's ridiculous. This is one of the main reasons why I don't hold DOT and I hold Nervos. So sorry for you guys that are holding DOT. This is very detrimental to the DOT ecosystem itself. Um, I let me do this. I'm not just randomly bashing the DOT ecosystem. I admire Gavin Woods for bringing Solidity and EVM. So those are very hardcore stuff that has brought so many possibilities for the blockchain world. And he's a genius. He's a deep, big, very skilled researcher. But this design for DOT is just not what I expect from the blockchain world. So here we have IBM Blockchain Platform. So in here we have Hyperledger Fabric. This is a private version of a blockchain. You should have that if you don't want to participate on a public blockchain. Why is that used today? Mainly to have the same cryptography and immutability capacity for a system, but you don't want the system to go in a public blockchain. You don't want to make some information public. So this is why Hyperledger Fabric is used today. It's a good use case, but it's not feasible for investment. Hyperledger Fabric is not a coin, it's not a token, it's just a stack, a programming stack really that you can instantiate and build on top of it. And I actually know a woman, a businesswoman here in Brazil that she was doing she was developing a system for banks to approve credit for companies. And she decided to go with blockchain from IBM. She decided to develop it on top of Hyperledger Fabric. And she didn't know about those intricacies and those details on blockchains. She was just thinking that Hyperledger would provide the kind of trust that Ethereum has or that Bitcoin network has. And after the system was built, she actually saw what she was doing with the developers. And she came to the conclusion that Hyperledger was not the way to go because although Hyperledger allows us to do immutable transactions, it's not a public blockchain, so it's owned by IBM, which is a central authority, and it's used, and the decisions come from her company, so she would be the trusted party. And for a good system, we got to have, for a good blockchain system, for a pure good blockchain system, we got to have a trustless environment, decentralized, no central authorities or companies or government involved. So what she decided was just to throw it all off. She decided to abort the Hyperledger use, and now she's like coming with some ideas on which blockchain, which public blockchain she would be using. And then she has got through some, like Ethereum, one, Cardano. She's just studying the blockchain space to know better what she has to do in order to provide that service in the most trustless way possible, so that any of her clients, which are big banks, could audit the whole thing in the public blockchain. So this is pretty much it. When you are choosing a blockchain, if it's for an investment, look for those clues that central authorities are coming or you should trust anybody. So you gotta have a trustless, decentralized kind of blockchain. So later on, when that same woman was researching through different systems, she sent me this page from Amazon Quantum Ledger Database, fully managed ledger database that provides a transparent, immutable, and cryptographically verifiable transaction log, owned by a central trusted authority. The very same thing that we have to avoid in blockchain. There's no blockchain and central trusted authority. There shall be no blockchains and central trusted authorities at the same time in a phrase, in a statement. So she sent me this page and I was just like, well, this Amazon service is just the same thing as IBM Blockchain Platform. It's just the same thing as Hyperledger Fabric. It's another way of looking at a private permissioned blockchain. And it's not a good investment if you want to have a really trustless system. Because if you have to trust Amazon, then it's not a blockchain. It's not the whole concept of what the blockchain movement is about. So we have here an example. Let's go at a whole different level of permissioned layers, because there are many different kinds of permission being provided in blockchain systems and ecosystems. So Ethereum is governed by a benevolent dictator. This is an article from Medium, And it's actually an article that explains how does Ethereum governance works. And there are some things that I would call out here. Some authors see Buttering's role as a benevolent dictator who can persuade other stakeholders on which direction to go with Ethereum. So another one is the setup on the one hand is considered less democratic than Bitcoin's distribution of power. And the third one, a more centralized governance approach might be an acceptable sacrifice. So for those who understand what blockchain is about, seeing Ethereum having one guy, Vitalik Buterin, as the director and the dictator of some decisions, it's pretty shady thing. I don't know if shady is a good word, but it's, yeah, we get that feeling that, yeah, we have one person deciding on the whole blockchain ecosystem. Uh, maybe this won't uh, be, maybe he won't be the right person to take some decisions. And maybe he will take some decisions that will piss off many people, as it has happened before. So, whenever you're investing, just check for these kinds of blind spot and weaknesses on the ecosystem you are choosing to hold, right? Let's see another one. Oh, there's no other samples here. So the end result is in many blockchains, the ecosystem participants are facing nonsense censorship, useless bottlenecks for development, and barriers for adoption and participation caused by central authorities and bad design decisions. So this is what happens. And the real end result is bottlenecks for participation that we call the permissions layer or the trust layers limits the input of new ideas, diversity, creativity, and innovation in a blockchain ecosystem. And when you strangle the capacity of the network to bring new ideas, to bring new people, to bring new code, new tests, you are leading that blockchain to severe suffocation of the value creation in the network. So ideally, you want a blockchain that is wide open. You don't want one person to take the decisions for the whole ecosystem, being person, a government, or company. Doesn't matter. You don't want that kind of thing happening. So how does Nervos deal with that? So Nervos aims to be a permissionless and trustless access blockchain. So all Nervos Network features can be used in a permissionless way. This is the first thing. Developers can just go into Nervos Network and develop dApps, just download the toolkits and start developing, start deploying it and making the applications coming alive. This is just what we need, right? A fresh breathing ecosystem that everybody can go in. So all developers, there's this particular thing on Nervos Network that developers can share on-chain code with one another and collaborate freely in unprecedented ways. In Ethereum, we have the smart contracts. Everybody can call each other smart contracts, but Nervos Network goes one step further. Like anybody could implement really hardcore stuff on layer one and share with the other developers because Nervos Network has a higher level of abstraction than Ethereum has. One of the examples is Nervos Network can pretty much transact with all other blockchains. So this is an example of how it's done. Any developer could write its own way of transacting with other blockchains. So it is amazing the amount of flexibility that the dev team has come up with. It's just crazy, right? So there's one weak spot here, and I should call out because I gotta be transparent. I'm investing, but I have this one thing that I think might be a weakness for the Nervos blockchain development, which is Nervos Foundation does admit that doing a decentralized governance is quite difficult. So it has a multi-million-dollar fund that's destined to create grants to encourage the ecosystem development. But yeah, the whole fund is, and the whole decision on future architecture is managed by the Nervos Foundation. So you have, yes, you have a central authority, and it is a trusted party. So it is a weak spot in Nervos blockchain. But this is the real deal for any blockchain today. And even Bitcoin, we have the core developers. That core developer team, they have to be trusted by the rest of the ecosystem. So we haven't still reached to the point in which a blockchain is fully trustless. There's a root trust layer here, a root permissioned access in the blockchains that are the developers of that technology. So we have in order to try to deal with that, the Nervos Foundation, they issued a commitment with the network ecosystem, which is to decentralize more and more of the governance of the Nervos network as time goes by. So in the long term, Nervos Foundation want to step back from many of the decisions they have to take today. So this is a commitment. We can't have a trustless environment on a commitment. We should just trust the Nervos Foundation if we have to see it growing, see the network growing. What I have in mind about that is people will often come with the word scam in their heads, right? So we worry that the core team of a technology could be scamming the market, as XRP is being accused by the SEC. So what do we have here, really? When I was looking into Nervos Foundation, what I saw, and that makes me trust the Nervos Network Foundation as a whole, is the fact that it is backed by solid investors. So the first example is this, the biggest example is Sequoia Capital. When I see Sequoia Capital going into Nervos Network, what I know is, well, Sequoia Capital has so much money in the markets. They hold so many different positions with so many great companies. They don't need to steal a spare change from people who are investing in Nervos blockchain, right? From retail investors. So Sequoia Cap, Multicoin, and everybody who went into the Nervos private token sale, they don't need to manipulate retail investors. They are in for really, really, really big wins. So as I know that these guys doesn't need to manipulate prices or do anything because they are already filthy rich, that makes me trust the Nervos Foundation more and more. So there are many things that I do to deal with that. Another thought is these guys are doing such relevant technology, so much detailed, and the tokenomics is so much well thought that it makes me realize that they are in for creating really a good blockchain. They are in for the technology. And some of the core team developers, one of them actually said to me, I'm in for the tech. I'm not in the ecosystem for the money. I'm in for the tech. This team is brilliant. This is why I decided to go in. It's amazing working with them. It's solid, hardcore technology. And all those evidence that I have from interacting with the Nervos ecosystem and studying it makes me have the conviction that we will have no problems with that kind of permissionless. But yeah, it's a weak spot. I gotta admit, you got me on that. So yeah, this is the Nervos Network. We have some good examples of benevolent dictators on the interwebs, and I think the biggest one of them is Linus Torvalds, which is the Linux inventor. So Linus Torvalds is the guy that will allow or forbid any change to the Linux kernel source code. So this guy he is the main brain behind the Linux operating system, and he's actually done a pretty good job on that. We don't know what we don't know is that if we don't actually know what would happen with the Linux ecosystem if Linus Torvalds was not a dictator, because dictators will limit the input of information in the system. So yeah, we don't know if Linux could go way further than what it is today if we didn't have a dictator telling people what can or can't go into Linux. So a good example of a solid centralized leadership, but maybe if we don't have that, if we didn't have that for 30 years, maybe the Linux system could have gone even further, or it could have died. We don't know. This is just tough for thought. Okay? So yeah, gotta think about that. What to do when investing in a blockchain? Should we trust a centralized authority, the developers? So the end result is, from the Nervos initiatives and commitment and ecosystem today, is that Nervos Network, any participant throughout the ecosystem can enter and stay as much as they want without asking for permission to anybody, without fearing censorship or having to endure useless bureaucracy, being allowed to create and share on-chain code freely. The part that we can't do as we see fit is to deal with the core layer 1 code directly. We can suggest changes, but we can't force the team to take those suggestions further. So there is a trust layer in the Nervos ecosystem. But other than that, the Nervos ecosystem is pretty wide open. And when we compare Nervos Foundation with the other blockchains, we have the same kind of circumstance. So developers, we need to trust them. And as time goes by, the hope is that the Nervos Foundation starts to give up from more and more of the centralized decisions they will have. Just as Bitcoin have done as history goes on, right? We still have a trust layer in the developer, in the core development team on Bitcoin, but in 10 years, it has proved to be a good development team. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So good thing for your investment is looking for a permissionless access, permissionless accessible network. Whenever you're choosing a coin, just look for this. Is this network permissionless? At what level is it permissionless? Is there any small clue that a central party or central authority would hold people, block people from doing something? Okay, all right. So in the next videos, we are going to see the network takeover danger. We are going to see some more examples on the network takeover risk. And yeah, hold your nervous, people. Hold your CKBs. If you want to buy CKBs, you can go to Binance, Huobi, Bithumb, Voyager, or ClearSwap that will be launched soon. That's it. And come and have a good time with us. Subscribe to this channel if you like this conversation. And let's go have a nice, friendly conversation on the Telegram channels. So we have the official Nervos Network and the community network, which is ruled by the investors themselves. Nervos unofficial. What I would say is, if you have any questions on how to use wallets and stuff, you should go to Nervos Network on Telegram. But if you want to hang out and have nice conversations, just come to Nervos Unofficial. We will be waiting for you there. Thank you. Bye-bye.